Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the May 10th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. First, giving a shout out to my neighbor who's redoing his kitchen, and of course, he picked the prime time of 7 p.m. to make these changes and to start drilling. So I appreciate I appreciate him for that. Also, shout out to those of you who are tuned in on Facebook Live. Props to everyone on Instagram. It's a little deserted over there, probably because the weather's nice. And last but not least, shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So listen, I was debating whether I was going to have a show tonight, man. Because listen, it ain't nothing really happening, nothing worthwhile to talk about. We know white folk out there shooting people. Shout out to Jonah who gave me some information about I put out a feeler for what y'all talking about out here in these streets. He was like, well, it was 11 mass shootings in the span of a week. I feel like that's par for the course for where we are in society. I don't even, I don't have any data to say whether that's a substantial increase over periods prior to. But it's not necessarily something that I find to be shocking or alarming. It's the game, right? It's the game that we're in 2021 for sure. We talk about gun prevention. We talk about gun violence ad nauseum to the point where at this stage of the game, if nothing's going to be done, then I think folk just need to say, listen, nothing is going to be done, and that's just the end of it. And let me go and get my gun, right? Instead of having these lofty expectations or in hope about some type of change happening. Probably still need to go get a gat anyway, even though I'm anti-gat. So, as I was sitting here thinking about what I was going to talk about, it came across and it was like a breaking news, and it said that 12-year-olds to 15-year-olds can now get the COVID vaccine from Pfizer. Have no idea why Moderna and Johnson & Johnson weren't mentioned. And I always find it interesting, like Pfizer is that upper echelon vaccine. That's that upper class vaccine. Moderna is for the middle class folk, everybody in between. And then the Johnson & Johnson, they like, hey, listen, we're going to cover you, but we just going to give you the one shot, and we hope that it works. And so this 12 to 15-year-old age range that the CDC is now saying are allowed to get the vaccine, that's a game changer. Because we know that your president, and again, none of these presidents are my president because they all represent the same establishment. But Joe Biden said he wanted to have 150 million to 160 million Americans vaccinated by July 1st to July 4th, something in that time period. And by getting children vaccinated, that not only helps them reach that number, but what it also does, it truly helps in the reducing of transmission of COVID. We know that probably a lot of children have had COVID or some variant, but because there's a high likelihood they'd be asymptomatic, that they were just passing it off to adults, and nobody knew until the adult got sick, unless the adult was asymptomatic. So I think it's a great effort into really throw a wrench into the plans of COVID. I think we're going to do, I say we, like I'm a part of this, right? But I think as Americans, I think the majority of us are really trying to do our due diligence when it comes to COVID and vaccination. But then you got them folk in Texas, and we know them folk in Texas, they're a little bit behind on the times. They're a little bit, we know Texas folk crazy. And I'm starting to believe that it's just a southern thing, like a deep southern thing, like Florida. Now, when I talk about it, what's happening in Atlanta, in Texas. I watched the Canelo Alvarez fight on Saturday, and it was literally 73 to 75,000 people. 73 to 75,000 people at Texas wherever the Cowboys play. What's that? Is that AT&T Stadium or I don't know? Jerry Jones owned that whole ish. But you got 75,000 people in there, probably unvaccinated, half with masks, half without. So I think it's going to be large pockets like that where COVID is still going to be doing the Y2C, the Tootsie Roll. You know what I mean? The lean with it, rock with it, the swag surf with folk, right? Because the efforts that's taking place down there, or the lack thereof, is part of the reason why we see such high rates. And still, now, yes, that they are coming down, but it's a result of, I honestly can't say what it was a result of down south. We know up north, a lot of people are getting vaccinated. They've attempted to be as diligent, but we know the South has been wide open for a longer period of time. But ultimately, I'm sure people are getting, they're building up the antibodies from having COVID, probably. Some of them asymptomatic, and that's influencing a decrease in the COVID transmission rates, even though it's still relatively high in places like Texas. So, hopefully, I don't know if I'm gonna get my daughter vaccinated. She's 12, right? I said all that to say I don't even know if I want her getting that shot, because again, I'm still a little wary, weary about it. Even though I got the vaccine and I had some shoulder damage from it, but I think as we go forward in the upcoming weeks and months, it'll be a joint conversation that takes place between her mother and I, as well as her, because it's her body. And if she straight up say, "Nah, I don't want the shot," then you know what? She's not going to have the shot, because we believe in body autonomy for children. So that's extremely important. That's probably another conversation that needs to be had with regards to this vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds. We know that 14 and over can say no, right? They can say no, I'm not getting the shot. Now, I'm sure that because the shots aren't mandated, that if a 12-year-old gets there and they say no, that they're not going to get it. However, we recognize that 14 and over is the legal age for children to say, nah, I don't want this happening to me, or yes, I do want this happening to me, when it comes to their own physical and mental health. So we'll see, man. We'll see. So this first story I'm going to get into relates to the boy. And I don't know why I'm so dark. I'm dark skinned in here. Like, I got the lights rolling and everything. Let me see if I could do something with. Probably can't. Should have did that in pre-production, right? So this first story we're going to get into is relating to and both of these stories are relating to this idea of preserving whiteness. And so I was sitting there and I'm watching my sports, and I see TMZ, because TMZ always gets the information first, right? And it says on TMZ, Tim Tebow to sign 1-year deal with Jacksonville Jaguars. And it came out last week that he was he was not practicing, because they're not practicing right now, auditioning at tight end. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Tim Tebow, he was the quarterback of the Florida Gators for 4 years. He was an amazing college player, even with his limited passing ability. He was must-watch television. He won the Heisman Trophy back in, I believe it was 2008 or 2009. 2009 again, and we'll see the steps of whiteness and the influence of where being white gets you, not only in society but in the NFL. He couldn't throw worth a lick. However, he was still drafted in the first round in 2010 rather. Drafted in the first round by the Denver Broncos. He was mediocre, beyond mediocre, but he still was able to guide them to the playoffs, and I believe they won on a last-second play in the playoffs. I want to say against the Pittsburgh Steelers. and the mediocrity that followed, with the mediocrity that always existed, but it was justifiable because he had a really good to great college career. He'll go down as an all-time great. But the mediocrity was observed by the people that not only played with him, but played against him. They saw that he was talentless. However, all the pundits, they wanted to speak highly of Tim Tebow because he kneeled, right? And everybody was doing the Tebow kneeling and praying to God. But it's something when Colin Kaepernick does it on behalf of black and brown marginalized and disenfranchised individuals who are experiencing police brutality at the hands of white folk. Right, this police brutality. And so when we talk about contradictions, and this just is only one of the contradictions that's highlighted when we talk about Tim Tebow and we juxtapose it with Colin Kaepernick. They realized Tim Tebow was bad after a year and a half, 2 years. He gets cut. Whiteness allowed him to play for the New York Jets behind even sorrier quarterback Mark Sanchez. He gets cut. Ends up on the New England Patriots on their practice squad. He gets cut. Gets brought in by the Philadelphia Eagles. Gets cut. And then he goes into broadcasting for a period of time. Right? And then he's like, hey, you know what? I'm 28. I'm 29. I always wanted to do this baseball thing. I was pretty good as a youth. Let me go and try and play baseball. And so he gets signed by the New York Mets, a minor league contract. Again, we talk about white privilege in its purest form. Again, he had an amazing college career. The measurables were awful, yet he was still drafted in the first round by the Denver Broncos. We think about when black quarterbacks and how heavily scrutinized they are. They look for ways to denigrate black quarterbacks. Look no further than this past NFL draft. Justin Fields, who was an amazing college quarterback at Ohio State. You had people coming out of the woodworks trying to say why he wasn't good. He threw 50 touchdowns and had like 2 interceptions. But you have people who are saying how he's not, his processing, it's not on par with Mac Jones, who was the quarterback for Alabama. Despite all the weapons that he had, that Mac Jones had. They talk about how he was a one-trick pony. He didn't have to read coverages. But that's what happens when you're just that good. But these same arguments weren't being made for Tim Tebow. It got so bad to the point with Justin Fields, it was just like they had to talk themselves out of drafting a quality quarterback from what we've seen on paper and from his college career. For no other reason than him being black. And no, when we say him being black, it's not to say, oh, look, he's a black guy. We're going to draft him later. But it's no. Let us delve a little bit deeper. Let us start to truly pinpoint everything that goes wrong, or everything that he did wrong, even the things that he did right. We didn't see that with the number 1 pick. What's his name? Trevor Lawrence. We didn't see that with Zach Wilson, who came out of nowhere, a mediocre quarterback from BYU. And go Google the video. I wish I had it. Go Google the video of Zach Wilson standing next to some black future NFL players. It was like right before the draft, and they sitting there. The black players sitting there getting themselves ready for the picture, and he's looking around like he's nervous as AF. But yet you take him with the number 2 pick in the draft, where he's going to be in a locker room just full of black folk coming from BYU. Well, I don't necessarily even know if they believe in black folk. I'm trying to think of the last black person that went to BYU that was good. I know it was a basketball player. I want to say Brandon something. But again, the scrutiny, the privilege that comes with getting the benefit of the doubt. I had to look up how old Tim Tebow was. And a part of this is because, again, more white privilege. Urban Meyer. He had assistants who were beating their wife. Brought them with him from Florida to Ohio State. It was a big scandal. Still wasn't the reason he resigned, but he resigned. Now here he is, the head football coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of, nepotism. They're not related, but it's a little bit of nepotism there. Hey, you my man. You was my quarterback. You helped me be able to get in this position by being that amazing as a college quarterback. So let me bring you in, see what you can do at tight end. Forget the black and brown folk and the white folk who've been playing that position, who aren't 33, 34 years of age. And that's another reason why, again, it reeks of white privilege and the benefits of whiteness and how they continue to preserve it. They tried to say Cap was washed up, that he was too old, that he wouldn't want to come in and be a backup quarterback. Even though he dispelled that in everything that he said. They were bringing Josh McCown, the Philadelphia Eagles, 41 years of age, down south coaching high school football, and they just bring him in. Hey, come on in. We'll give you a contract. Again, the benefits of whiteness. And so now here Tim Tebow is with a fifth opportunity to be in the NFL, when Cap was one and done. And so when we talk about the systemic racism within all of these systems, when we talk about the privilege of whiteness, the benefits of whiteness, and why we all should be uber critical of white supremacy, it's because of situations like this. There's no other reason for him to be in this position other than the fact that he's white. Now they'll try to figure out ways, they'll call him a leader, right? Because that's the terminology that they throw around. He's a great locker room guy. He's a leader. He's a mentor. As if Cap couldn't do the same thing. But hey, man, listen, I wish him the best. I don't think it's going to go very far. Right? I think he'll get cut. But again, it's the principalities, like Big Worm said, of why this is so problematic. Marcel says not just preservation of whiteness, but Christian whiteness. Again, man, listen, if you could be Christian and white and male, That's the triple play. That's the win. So we're gonna keep this party going. I'm still a little rusty with this, man. I've been doing this once a week now, because school was in, and now I'm out of school for like at least the next 5 days. So I'm gonna try to get a couple more of these in. Yeah, trifecta, like Marcel said. I couldn't think of it. Right, Triple Crown, something like that. Speaking of Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby horse tested positive. Again, white folk going white folk. They're going white folk. They're going to cheat. They're going to do what they got to do to get to the top. You know what? I'm going to save this because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to save this for tomorrow night. I feel like I just wanted to touch the people tonight. Just for a little bit. And I'll get with y'all tomorrow. Plus, I'm hungry. So, appreciate you for turning in. Peace.